I'm Paul Gardner. I'm an assistant professor in the political studies department. My research focuses on American politics and in particular American law. I research in two general areas. So one is the interaction of the US Supreme Court with the other branches of government. And the second area is in legal mobilization. So I try to understand how individuals access courts at the lowest level. So I have two major research projects that I've been working on. The first has to do with separation of powers, and specifically my co-author Charisse Thrower and I have been investigating the impact that the president can have on the kinds of decisions that the Supreme Court makes. And specifically what we've found in this research is that the Supreme Court will decline to take up cases when the President of the United States would be likely to dislike the decision that the Supreme Court would want to make, right? So the Supreme Court is anticipating that the President would have a problem with the decision that the Supreme Court makes and therefore decides not to make a decision at all. The second major area of research that I'm working on is a larger book project. In the book project, I look at what are called private enforcement statutes. This is a unique kind of statute that exists in the United States, and these statutes essentially allow individuals to bring cases in courts of law, and that's authorized by Congress. So rather than Congress implementing or enforcing the law through the bureaucracy, that they instead enable individual litigants to bring cases. This has all sorts of consequences down the line for how statutes get enforced, but it also has consequences for how individuals have to take up resources in order to enforce statutes that would otherwise be enforced by the government itself. One of the really interesting things to me about studying courts is that it's probably the branch of government which you hear the least about in the news or in the coverage of politics. But when an individual comes into contact with courts, that can often be one of the most significant experiences of their life, right? It's either that something really terrible has happened to them or that there's something major in their life that needs resolution. And so my research tries to understand how individuals are impacted by courts of law that they might not think of every day until it's something that they need in order to resolve something that's happening in their life. So more and more political science research is done by teams of researchers, and I've really benefited from working with scholars who have been mentors to me when I was developing new lines of research, and I think it's a really important part of graduate education. One thing that I look forward to is working more with graduate students in developing research projects together that branch both my interests and the interests of those students. So the political studies department at Queen's is a really supportive environment and has a really interesting depth of knowledge in various fields. Queen's is a place where you can work both with world-class researchers, but also get great mentoring support. So in recent years, the Queen's Political Studies Department has developed a new and somewhat unique in Canada expertise in American politics. And so this is potentially a great place for people who want to be in Canada but have an interest in American politics to study and do research.